Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we are jumping right in today because we are going straight down the rabbit hole to fundamentally shift how you perceive your own existence. Seriously, we're going to explore some absolutely mind-bending insights from computational neuroscientist Anil Seth, and we're going to break down the very fabric of how your brain constructs the entire world around you. So take a second and just look at the screen in front of you. You probably think you're passively observing its true colors, right? Its sharp edges, its shapes. Well, actually, scratch that, because that is a deeply misleading illusion. You know, we feel like the world is just objectively out there, and it kind of pours itself into our minds through our eyes and ears, almost like a video camera recording reality. But it turns out that is not how human perception works at all. As Anil Seth so brilliantly points out, the world doesn't just pour into our minds. Instead, our brains construct it from the inside out. As he puts it, we don't passively perceive the world, we actively generate it. It's a completely counterintuitive idea, I know, but once you see the mechanics behind it, it literally changes everything about how you interact with reality. Section 1. Hallucinating your reality. Let's get into it. Let's start by looking at something as simple and everyday as color, just to prove that what you see is actually being generated by your brain. The sheer limitation of our biological hardware is honestly fascinating, because out in the objective universe, color just does not exist. There is no red, no green, no blue. There's only electromagnetic radiation. And our eyes? They only have cells that are sensitive to 3 specific wavelengths of that light: short, medium, and long. That is literally the only raw data your brain is receiving from the outside world. So from just those 3 limited, totally colorless inputs, your brain actively generates the millions of vivid, distinct colors that you experience every single day. The rich reds of a sunset, the vibrant greens of the trees, your brain constructs all of it to give your life texture, meaning, and beauty. You are actually experiencing so much more than what is objectively out there. Section 2. The prediction machine. So if we aren't passively recording the outside world like a camera, what exactly is the biological mechanism inside our heads doing? Well, your brain is essentially a prediction machine. It's constantly solving a really complex mathematical problem called Bayesian inference. That's basically calculating probabilities to figure out what is most likely out there. First, your brain actively generates top-down predictions, constantly guessing what's in the world based on prior evolutionary and learned expectations. Then, sensory signals, like the light, the sound, provide bottom-up data to calibrate those guesses. The senses don't create the picture, they just correct the brain's errors. Anil Seth uses a real game-changer of a term to explain our waking reality. He calls it a controlled hallucination. Now, when we hear the word hallucination, we usually think of hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there, right? An internally generated experience. Well, everyday perception is also internally generated. The only difference is that our normal waking hallucinations are firmly tethered to the real world by our sensory signals. So yeah, you are hallucinating right now, but it's a hallucination tightly controlled by reality. And to prove just how unique these individual hallucinations really are, Seth's team at the University of Sussex conducted a massive perception census. They tested around 40,000 people on visual illusions, like the Ebbinghaus illusion, where circles look like different sizes depending on their context. What they found was a staggering variation in how different people experience the exact same objective stimuli. Everyone's inner world, their perception of colors, shapes, even the speed of time is completely unique. Understanding this leads to an incredibly powerful concept called perceptual humility. Remember that viral image of the dress from a few years ago where half the internet saw blue and black and the other half saw white and gold? That perfectly proved that your reality is just a construction. Accepting that literally no one sees the objective world perfectly should inspire incredible empathy. Think about social media echo chambers, right? If we can't even agree on the color of a dress, it is no wonder our constructed beliefs about the complex world vary so wildly.
Section 3. What is consciousness?
If our reality is entirely constructed, it begs a much larger, more mysterious question. What exactly is the consciousness that is experiencing this hallucination in the first place? The simplest yet most profound definition of consciousness comes from philosopher Thomas Nagel. He said, "For a conscious organism, there is something it is like to be that organism. It simply feels like something to be you. It doesn't feel like anything to be a wooden side table or a rock, but for you, there is a distinct qualitative experience of existing." Which brings us to Section 4, the AI consciousness illusion. This definition becomes absolutely crucial when we apply it to modern technology. We're building systems that talk to us and act like us, forcing us to ask, is artificial intelligence actually experiencing the world? Experts like Seth are highly skeptical of AI consciousness. Look, AI operates purely on software and silicon. It functions on pure algorithmic sequence. You can pause an algorithm for a microsecond or a year, and it's the exact same algorithm. But human consciousness? It operates on biological wetware. We are bound by continuous entropic time, meaning our biology is constantly changing, aging, moving forward. The brain isn't just a computer made of meat. Life and continuous biological time are fundamentally intertwined with the very fabric of consciousness. AI mimics intelligence perfectly, sure, but it completely lacks the biological grounding of an actual experience.
But here's the thing. Even if AI isn't conscious, the fact that it seems conscious is deeply dangerous. Believing a language model has a mind makes us incredibly vulnerable. We risk forming parasocial relationships and opening ourselves up to psychological exploitation. As the late philosopher Dan Dennett warned, we absolutely must remember these are tools, not alternative people. If we start treating algorithms as living colleagues, we risk replacing genuine human relationships and losing sight of our own connection to the natural biological world.
Section 5. The illusion of self. Now let's take this whole concept to its most radical conclusion and turn that perceptual humility inward toward your own identity. We've established that the world you see is a controlled hallucination. But what about the you that is doing the looking? Let's look at an ancient thought experiment from the philosopher of Avicenna, known as the floating man. I want you to imagine floating in an absolute void. Now, step by step, let's strip away your senses. Take away your vision, plunge everything into darkness. Take away your hearing until there's complete silence. Strip away the feeling of physical touch, the sensation of temperature, of smell. Erase the very sense of where your limbs are or where your body is located in space. And finally, strip away all your past memories, every experience you've ever had. If we remove all of those inputs, what is actually left of the you that you think you are? The wild realization here is that the self is not a persistent, unchanging essence. I mean, you're not the exact same entity you were when you were 5 years old listening to a cassette tape, right? Just like the colors we see out in the world, the rigid, unchanging self you feel inside your head is also a controlled hallucination. It is a continuously changing biological process generated by the brain, ultimately designed to just keep your physical organism alive. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Realizing that your reality and your very self are constructed hallucinations might sound a bit like a recipe for existential dread, but it really shouldn't be. Instead, we should step back in absolute awe. The fact that billions of neurons communicate in the dark, silent space of your skull to generate this vivid, emotional, colorful world, it's astonishing. Opening your eyes and having a world appear is an everyday biological miracle. We shouldn't take a single sip of coffee or a single sunset for granted. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, profound question to ponder the next time you look in the mirror. If the colors you see are generated by your brain, and if the persistent self you identify as is just a biological illusion designed to keep you alive, then who exactly is the one having the experience?